We're here today at the United Nations Development Program Office here in Tashkent, and joining me is Anas Qarman. Anas, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming to the UNDP premises and to UN House. We welcome you.
I just want to quickly ask, how's your experience been here in Uzbekistan?
Well, I've arrived last August in 2023 in Uzbekistan. It's almost now 7-8 months for me in the country, and I must say I'm really impressed by the context of Uzbekistan, the reforms happening, and also all the efforts of the Uzbek people, the Uzbek government, basically to lead forward with this change happening in the country. So it has been really a very interesting experience. Previously, I was posted in our office in Serbia, Belgrade, and which is an upper middle income country. And coming here to Uzbekistan represent also another dynamic, very interesting for me also, in a country that also aiming to move its status to hopefully in the future to a middle or upper middle income country. So we're into that challenge together, and I hope we can work with the Uzbek people to help them in the future.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
That's quite a positive review you've given. It makes me happy to hear that, and I'm sure Uzbekistan will be happy to hear that too. And just recently you have launched the pilot program, the MPI.
Correct.
Do you mind giving some insights into it?
Yes, sure. And for those who doesn't know, the MPI stands for the Multidimensional Poverty Index, which is an index basically meant to measure different aspects of poverty. Usually people, when they think of the poverty term, they think about it as a income poverty. Basically, resources, you have money, you don't have money, But within UNDP, we've basically tried to redefine poverty beyond just an income, basically, aspect. When we talk about multidimensional poverty index, it's an index that basically, measure issues like access to quality of education, access to food security, and various other issues, despite the fact that you might have a certain income, but if you're deprived from those rights, this is defined in a way sort of a multidimensional poverty beyond just a mere aspect of income resources.
And from the results of the pilot so far, how do you see Uzbekistan comparing to its regional neighbors?
Well, basically comparing Uzbekistan to other countries regionally might not be basically the best thing to do, because each country has its own dynamics. The multidimensional poverty also index is influenced by different basically aspects, economic, socio-cultural, and all of that. But we could basically talk a little bit about some of the interesting, basically, finding of that report. We are looking when the first draft of the report was issued. Basically, approximately almost 18.4% of the adult population here in Uzbekistan, which is approximately 2 million people. Adults were identified as basically multidimensionally poor. Also within the report, I would share a very interesting finding, which was also talking about regional disparities. And we know that looking at the regional level within the country is very important. And within Uzbekistan, there are areas like the Republic of Karachi, Pakistan, Namangan region, and also Tashkent region, which showed, in particular, exhibited, a largest proportion of multidimensionally, poor adults. And the last interesting also finding is basically the disparities between rural and developed or urban, I would say, areas. So with rural areas, they are experiencing more, basically significantly higher indicators of MPI or multidimensional poverty.
And is that usually expected?
Yes, it's expected in such context, between rural and urban. And this is where, we try to work and focus on, beyond the center, beyond the urban, But the results showed that 23% of those regions showing more, actually 23% poverty rate compared to the urban areas, which showed 13.9, almost 14%, in urban areas as of multidimensional poverty measure.
That is quite a big disparity.
Yeah.
Let's take a look quickly into what were the challenges that you experienced during the pilot?
Well, such big project, basically like any other project we run in our professional lives, would always face challenges, basically, and obviously, the implementation of the pilot study of this MPI face also some of those challenges. One of the primary challenges that we basically have faced is defining poverty, basically, which is a very, in a comprehensive manner, which is a very, I would say, important exercise, because people, as I said at the beginning, look at it from, different aspects. What could constitute, a real poverty definition? Is it access to food? Is it access to quality food? Is it access to education? Beyond just, as I said, the income measure. So crafting a definition that required extensive, basically, consultation with the national and international experts across various fields and surveys also among the population to come together to a unified, holistic, comprehensive, definition of poverty. That was one main, I would say, challenge. But also another challenge is in building the structural framework for the pilot national MPI. This involved not only data collection, but also establishing the accurate indicators, basically, that tells you that we have multidimensional poverty here. Those indicators are basically like a lighthouse that would allow us to define our work, and they are important to be established correct and right from the beginning with the right stakeholders, with the also civil society and ministries. And
with those indicators, they're not entirely just numerical.
They're not, absolutely, yeah. They look into various aspects, even when we talk about food security. And while discussing with the colleagues, we look at the quality of food security. For example, an individual, how much they could get a share of protein in their diet daily, or carbohydrates, or useful nutritional, values. So it's beyond just statistics and numbers. It's more of I would say, quality also indicators that we look into it. Also, education. Can kids at school, have safe roads and access to schools? You could have the school there. You could have a quality education with the school, but are they able to reach, for example? All those very interesting, quantitative and qualitative also measures were taken into consideration when we put those indicators.
And now that you have all of the framework, you have the structure in place, you have the indicators and the definitions, what are the next steps?
Well, the next steps is to operationalize the MPI. As we look at it right now, it's important to understand that poverty is, as I said at the beginning, beyond just an income, measure definition. It is important, but you could look at it as two eyes that you need. Both of them complement each other, and the use of them together, are important, So what we look at it right now, integrating this, MPI into the policy making of, the government officials, when they plan, when they look at regions, when they allocate resources, for example, that indicator would allow them basically to make informed, evidence-based decision on their support and their assistance, to people in need.
And that actually brings us into the next question, which is, how do you work with the government? Because it's quite a massive bureaucratic machine, and there's a lot that needs to be done to get everything off the ground. How can the UNDP or any other international organizations work together with the Uzbek government to ensure that everything gets done the way it hopefully is planned to be.
Yes, correct. I mean, for me as a development professional, I would say there are three main elements for a successful collaboration with the government for such big projects. The first one is the ownership. And what I've noticed here in Uzbekistan, there has been really a great ownership from different basically stakeholders and ministries, including Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, the Office of Statistics, and other various, basically also players. And without having that genuine ownership and will to work on a specific, basically topic or challenge, it would be difficult for any basically organization to be able to operate within the context of their host government. The second aspect is that we do invest in capacity building, basically. Going forward with any new initiative like the MPI, we work closely, as I mentioned, with the Statistics Office. We also had the SAIR organization working with us on that important event. We had also other partners like the World Bank, UNICEF, involved in the process. And within that process, there has been, with our partners from OFI, there has been I would say, a very good opportunity for capacity building, for people to understand within those institutions what does constitute poverty challenge, what is the multi-dimensional poverty, and how you could put that into use, taking different experiences from different countries. The third and the most important element for us to navigate within this work is that we basically work and empower the national systems. Our mandate requires this, We invest in the countries, we invest in the existing national systems to ensure that it's at the end, whatever sustainable, whatever intervention is sustainable, that you leave in the country. So investing on those national systems is important. At one day, we hope that, the country will graduate and basically UNDP is no longer perhaps needed in the country.
They become independent.
And become one of those also developed countries that does not require support.
How can the findings of the MPI be leveraged to help with this policy making?
Well, the findings of the report provide, of course, a solid framework for evidence-based policy making and also targeted interventions to alleviate poverty. Policymakers can draw upon successful strategies employed in other countries, and here I will mention some examples. For example, Armenia, which also utilizes the MPI to monitor poverty reduction nationally, so they could see the impact of their basically policies and efforts through the MPI indicators, whether those policies were useful or not. Also similar to Costa Rica analysis, Uzbekistan can ensure resources are channeled effectively, addressing mismatches and maximizing impact. As I said, the MPI could shed light on the regional disparities within the country. So understanding that, for example, that was the situation in Costa Rica. They have used the basically MPI findings and results to channel effectively the required resources to the most affected regions. And at the beginning, I've mentioned a few also regions here in Uzbekistan, for example, the Republic of Karakal, Pakistan, Namangan, also the region of Tashkent. Another also example inspired by the Vietnam's use of the MPI to pinpoint priority groups for poverty. So now we're coming to even a micro level where we could target certain group of people who are vulnerable, to reduce, social inequalities. Those are some of the examples that I could probably, mention, and they can also be tailored and used within the context of Uzbekistan.
So they can be adjusted and adapted.
Yes.
And you briefly mentioned the successes of those programs, but how do you then measure the success of the programs that you implement? What is the criteria that is there? Because a lot of it sounds qualitative.
Right, yeah. Well, there are various indicators.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we could go back to the sort of monetary aspect of measuring poverty,
Mm-hmm.
income of citizens, GDP of the country, and basically reducing inequalities between people, quality to access, to
Mm-hmm.
education, security of food, and all of that. Now, we need to understand also that the MPI is not a one-time exercise. And also to respond to your question, when you repeat that exercise over and over, it allows you through the indicators and the surveys that you do within the multidimensional poverty index to measure the progress of
Mm-hmm.
people, talking to them. Do they have now better access to, for example, wash, sanitation services, to education and all of that? Collecting from the population directly at the grassroots level would allow you basically to say, well, there has been a good progress, or in this area we still need to, for example, invest more, or do we need to change our direction, policies, tailor it, and all of that. So it has a dual purpose. While it serves as an indicator for an overall poverty percentage, it also helps you to measure your progress at the same time, when you basically run your surveys, talk to people, and try to measure the pulse of progress of your work.
And is there a timeline for seeing a certain amount of progress?
Well, we are hoping that through the ambitious agenda of the country, reducing basically poverty by half through the Uzbekistan Vision 2030 development plan. We hope that between now and 2030, the country will be able to halve its poverty rates, hopefully. That's the timeline that we are looking at. But at the same time, we need to be realistic. Such timeline is attainable. However, it would require serious efforts, coordinations from all, stakeholders, from international community, from the government, from the people also of Uzbekistan, to come to those results.
It's a unified effort.
Of course, one hand doesn't clap by itself. You need two hands,
Very good analogy.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to quickly ask about the human development report.
Yes, on the human development report, which was really interesting issues and version for this time. A recent one basically highlighted some of the challenges that would need to be addressed, for such collaboration to succeed. It emphasizes the need to overcome what we call a fog of false differences, basically, and the political divides to find common ground. Basically, the report calls also of, the human development report calls for prioritizing human security and also ensuring people feel empowered. Without the human security, without engagement of people, ownership, all those measures, all those tools, all those policies, would be, in my opinion, ineffective. So we really lean on a citizen-centric, approach, and that's what the report also was talking about. And to effectively fight poverty, international organizations can also tailor programs to Uzbekistan strategies, while local government also provides data and insights on specific needs. For instance, also a highly ambitious goal, as I mentioned, of reducing poverty by 2026 and achieving the upper middle income status by 2030. It has been set up by the government here in Uzbekistan, in the development strategy 2026 and 2023. And also, yet these very ambitious goals, I would say, will require bigger efforts and investments toward achieving the sustainable and inclusive development.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. And I think we have reached to my final question.
Yes, please.
And I want you to imagine that we're reaching out to the far reaches of Uzbekistan's regions. How would we explain to the populations there, the individual people, what exactly it is that the UNDP does and how it benefits their lives.
Correct. Well, our work is a bit, in my opinion, challenging as development practitioners. Usually it takes years to see the impact of developmental actions and policies, basically. Different from maybe other domains. If you build a school, people would feel the impact, for example, immediately. But is it going to improve the overall situation of that community or of that country? That would require more of a long-term, I would say, investments and work. But here for us in Uzbekistan, we're lucky to have many examples, basically, where people felt really the impact of the UNDP work. I could give a few examples at different levels, policy or certain interventions. If you've basically heard about the public service delivery centers that is being run in Uzbekistan, it has been an impressive basically project that helped the Uzbek people to finalize all those public services, from birth certificates, from different aspects, driving license and so on, in a fashionable, easy, smooth manner, in a very basically also organized, digitalized way. It's a project that started with maybe 5-7 pilot centers, but then the government realized the importance of that project, and they were able to replicate those centers all over the country. Now you can basically, in a very comfortable manner, in a very, I would say also, civilized manner, be able to finalize all those requirements very quickly and efficiently. And the project is still continuing. I was talking to the colleagues the other day, and they want to work on the notary system as well. If you want to certify something from the authorities, we're trying to move that to an online platform. Now, for example, lots of Uzbek people would have to fly if they are outside the country, to come here and to basically to have something stamped or to be signed. And you can imagine how cumbersome the process, the cost, and all of that. Hopefully, with the the project work and efforts, we're still working on that. You could still do all those digital processes online, save people time and energy and resources and all of that. At other also levels, beside the service delivery, we've been also working closely with the government on the new law to criminalize, domestic violence. And I'm happy to see that this law came to light at the end, and it's being operationalized right now. Various issues also on our projects. For example, there has been a ban on women driving buses to a certain capacity here in Uzbekistan, and that ban was lifted basically within the project support and efforts. There has been an article in the Associated Press on women now driving all kinds of buses regardless capacity, which sends a message that there is equal basically opportunity for everyone, whether you are a male or female in Uzbekistan, and the women are capable also as their peer men to support the country, to support the economy, to support also the prosperity of Uzbekistan.
So there's a lot of small gradual things that are happening that are building up to creating that bigger picture of development and sustainable development.
Yes, of course, definitely. As they say, 1,000 step journey, starts with the first step. And I'm sure that now Uzbekistan has already started this step, and they are beyond the first step. They're progressing well, and it's I would say it's one of the successful stories I've been witnessing and seeing, and I'm honored to be part of it.
It's a very optimistic outlook.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Anas, so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much.